beans. I will be recording this lecture, so if you do not have permission, please have your video turned off like the majority of you do. However, like I said, it will only pop you up if you are speaking anyway, so you probably won't be seen anyways. All right. And I do always like getting to see your beautiful smiling faces. It helps me do my job. It really does. You might not believe that, but seeing those smiles, the looks in your eyes, know if you're confused or not. Anyways, the beginnings of Islam. The first review. We talked about last week, the Arabs needed to adapt. It's hot, it's sunny, there are big flies, there's lack of water. It was a tough place to live. Many people became nomads. They lived off the herds, the milk and the cheese and the yogurt they can make from their animals, the skins, the meat. And some people went around and they controlled the trade routes like we talked about. Other people went and created these towns to support these trade routes near the oases. They became merchants. They became farmers. They helped the caravans transport goods across the desert. Just a reminder, of course, these caravans are merchants traveling together because Mikhail is very, very rich. He doesn't want his stuff stolen. So Mikhail doesn't go by himself so that London can beat him up and steal his stuff. No, Mikhail goes with Leighton, goes with Jude, goes with Joel, goes with Iris, goes with Alicia, so that it's a big, big group so that London is afraid to attack. Now, it's important for us to realize the city of Mecca was not always known as Mecca. It was first referred to as Makkah. Makkah, Mecca, it is the same place. So during the time of our story, it was Makkah, okay? Today, it's known as Mecca. You're going to hear both of those names, although I typically just lean towards Mecca because it's what it's called today and it's a little easier. But if you hear Makkah, think Mecca. If you think Mecca, you hear Mecca, think Makkah. Same place. And our story is going to focus on a specific part of Mecca, or Makkah, as you would, for a lot of this. Now, we're not going to get into it too much today, but especially tomorrow when the poo-poo starts hitting the fan, we're going to get to that. And that's going to be the place called the Kaaba. Now, the Kaaba is pictured here on the top right, this black cubic building. The picture on the bottom is actually the inside of the Kaaba. And today, it is a holy place for Muslims, but for all Arabs, it was a holy place prior to Muhammad in 630 because it was a place that around it was surrounded many, many statues of different gods and goddesses. Inside was, or is, I should say, I apologize, a stone which they say came from heaven. We think maybe a meteorite or something like that, something that fell from the sky. Now, does anyone remember, because I am so forgetful, I really have this class just so that you guys can give me the answers. Does anyone remember what's that called when you believe in more than one god or goddess? Yes, Joel.
Polytheism.
Oh, you are the man. It's like you read my brain noggin because I lied. I actually did remember. See, I'm just so tricksy. Yep. Polytheism. So the Arabs were originally polytheistic, and we're going to learn under Muhammad, he's going to change that and make them typically monotheistic. Any questions before we move on, my cherubs? Okay, then. So we're going to keep on going and get to the hero of our story for these next couple of days. Would be a man named Muhammad. He is going to be the founder of Islam, all right? Now, you'll often hear him referred to as the prophet. Now, when you hear someone say the prophet, 99% of the time they're talking about this man, Muhammad. Now, you might be a little confused because you'll realize Muhammad has become an extremely popular name. In fact, it is the most common male name in the world. There are more people named Muhammad than anything else. And it's because of this man, Muhammad. A very, very popular name. And it's because of this man, often referred to as the prophet. So we've talked about prophets in the past when we talked about Judaism and Christianity. We've got Ezekiel and Jeremiah and Jonah and Joel. But those prophets, you never just hear him as the prophet, unless sometimes. This guy is often just the prophet, or you'll hear the Prophet Muhammad. So just keep that in mind as well. Now, Muhammad had a tough growing up. Poor guy, his dad died before he was born. Then his mommy dies when he's 6. So he lives with his grandfather, who dies when he's then 8. So the poor boy has lost so much in his life. Now, because of the inheritance laws for the Arabs, a minor, meaning someone who's still considered a child, not an adult, was not allowed to inherit any money. So therefore, everything his family had, he didn't get any of it. So he had nothing. And eventually Muhammad lives with his uncle. Now his uncle wasn't going to slow down or change his life because he now has a boy to take care of. His uncle was a merchant and went on many, many long journeys. And because, he wasn't going to stop working, he went and took his nephew Muhammad with him. He went to places all over the Arabian Peninsula, even as far as Syria, which is off the border of the Mediterranean Sea. And that whole time, Muhammad is paying attention to how to be a merchant. And he learns it quite well, apparently. In fact, Muhammad becomes famous for being a very honest merchant, which was actually rare. It's kind of sad to think about it, but many, 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 many merchants were very, very dishonest back then. Like, I'm serious. Some merchant steal. He'd be like, I am going to sell you a foot of cloth. He, he, he. And then when Delicia buys it, it's actually only 11.5 inches. Or Nora is a merchant and she's like, I'll sell you a pound of sugar, Nalea, so that you can bake your cake. But then Nora puts her finger on the scale. So really she only gets 15 ounces instead. So merchants were typically dishonest, but Muhammad became famous for always telling the truth. He became so famous and was so good at being a merchant that a widow, meaning a woman who lost her husband who happened to be very, very wealthy, is impressed with Muhammad. They start doing business together and then, they fall in love and they get married, which is awesome for Muhammad because now not only does he have the happiness and joy of having a wife, he becomes very, very rich too because she was very, very rich. So ka-ching, hooray. Here's the thing though. Muhammad doesn't forget his poor past. He doesn't go gloat in it and do Scrooge McDuck style, like jumping in a swimming pool full of gold coins or anything like that. He gets bummed out thinking about all the people who don't have very much. He thinks about how there are so many poor people in Mecca who have next to nothing. So he lives in Mecca, and although he is considered wealthy, he goes and hangs out in the caves near the city of Mecca. And this is where Muhammad says he receives a vision. And that, of course, at the exciting part, we're going to leave as a cliffhanger so that we can continue on with our lesson tomorrow. So, Muhammad, tough life, became rich, but remembered his poor past, hangs out in the cave thinking about the problems of the world, and then says he receives a vision. That is the notes for today. I am going to stop recording so that I can upload it later.